much harder than anything Craig just said in terms of technology. If you need help with the technology, Craig and I would be glad to walk you through that. So don't worry too much about that, but obviously the rest of it, like blogging, is building on things, and the way you do that is you do it consistently. Is you just
talk about what the average CPM would be for a sale for a podcast, what the range versus, say, a blog page.
Well, it depends. Let's do pluses and minuses of podcasts and blogs right now. The minus, for instance, we just did an SEO panel talking about blogs. Podcasts right now don't really give you SEO. You have to have a blog post. Google right now doesn't look inside a podcast and see what we're about, and so it doesn't help with that right now. Now, they've got technology that they're working on, so maybe it will someday, but it doesn't right now. In terms of value to an advertiser, a study coming out of Edelman said that podcasts are the best form of forming a brand impression. So they beat National Public Radio, which is the second best way to form a brand impression by a bit, and they beat the snot out of TV, radio, or magazines. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's harder to sell advertising on podcasts right now. If you sell it though, roughly $50 CPMs is not unheard of. Somewhere in that kind of...
And for a blog, if you were to make 10, that would be super high. $1 is often common.
But right now they are harder to sell. So there are pluses and minuses. Podcasting does take more time, but it depends. I can think of at least 4 types of podcasts that are appropriate for people in this room. Craig's is 2 people talking generally, and so you get around a microphone, you turn it on, you talk, you finish it, you do some editing, maybe. Editing is optional depending on who you listen to. Craig and I both edit. My amateur traveler is predominantly an interview. We are never in the same room. I have never done an interview in 5 years of the amateur traveler where I'm sitting facing the person. We always do it over Skype. They're either on Skype, I'm always on Skype. I sometimes am calling them on a phone. They might be in Uzbekistan, I've done that. So that's a form that works where you're not necessarily, I don't travel as much as Craig does. I can't talk about my travels because it would be, I went to the store today. So to form consistent content every week, I talk to Gary. Gary, tell me about going to the Federated States of Micronesia and what it's like to swim with jellyfish in Palau. So,
it was nice.
It was nice. And then you never talk to Gary again. You get somebody who can describe it. So that's the second. The third form is if you...
We have an opening on This Week in Travel.
If you have a portable recorder like this, and the one that I'm using right now is a Blue Mikey, which plugs into your iPhone or your iPod, then you can add to your talk about things, background noises, or you can add in, for instance, the best one I had is I was wearing an iRiver, which is a portable recorder you can find on eBay. A 700 or an 800 series iRiver works for podcasting, but they don't make it anymore. And you plug in an external microphone. I used a lapel mic. I was walking through the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, and somebody came up to me to sell me a carpet. And I captured that experience in the podcast, and I love it. That's sound seeing. So that's a third form that works especially for travelers. And the fourth one is what we do on what we are not doing today on This Week in Travel, which is a roundtable discussion. We spend about 15 minutes normally picking stories, and we get on and we riff. And you get interesting people and you get interesting guests, and normally they have more interesting things to do.
Serving no purpose whatsoever.
And our apologies, but we will have back on This Week in Travel because we wanted to have her on, but this show has gotten away from us a little bit because of the time pressure.
Talk quickly about the role of iTunes versus your website in terms of where listeners are accessing it.
Sure. So they're really different worlds. When you're thinking about blogging, you're thinking about the things that people were talking about before. You're doing traffic generation through SEO, through links from other bloggers, commenting on other sites. You're doing all kinds of social things. iTunes is a really different game. It's a closed box. So inside this closed box, you really need to be in the top 10 if you're going to be consistently building traffic. And you've got really long